Hello again, it's Elizabeth and I'm here in my art loft. I thought today I would show you how I got started on making the cover for my journal that I have selected the pages. The pages I did a selection on November 29th and I showed you how I put those together and decided which pages went where and so on. Today we're going to get started on the cover, and the reason it's taken me so long is I just have been kind of, I don't know, I didn't feel like doing it, or I just was contemplating whether I wanted the back to show, or if I just wanted a solid back, or what I wanted on that. I've decided that I'm going to make it with two bands, one band across here and one band across here, so that all this prettiness in the middle will show. The other thing I did was to replace the outside of the orange section, because the orange that I had before was too close to the red, so I didn't think that it looked as rainbowy. Of course, the green doesn't really show too green, but it is kind of green when you look at it. It's still kind of interesting, I think, with the little bits of color that you'll see there. Again, I'm going to make two kind of bands. So the way that I've made these journals in the past is I put a cover on the outside that is covered with a pretty piece of paper. This is the board that would be covered. And then a cover on the inside that is also the board. Excuse me a minute. Put those over there. So you'll have one cover on the inside of that and one cover on the outside of that. And then this was what held the signatures in and was the back for it. And then the same thing on the back side. And these things will be covered with beautiful butterfly prints, because that's how I do it. And the ones that I've chosen to be the covers for this, I've decided on this one for the front, or the outside part, and this one for the inside of the cover. So when you look at it, you will see a section that is 8.5 inches tall, of course, by 5.5 inches wide. So this is what you'll see. You won't see the white, of course. You'll see what's under that. So approximately that much will be showing as the front cover. And you can see from top to bottom here. And then when you open it, you will see the same kind of section of it that will be the inside front cover. And this relates to this one because they both have the same turquoise kind of color here. This one has more gold over it, so it looks a little more green, but they're both virtually the same. And this one has the orange here, where this one has the orange and the butterflies. This one has the blue and the butterflies, and the background on this is actually, maybe not quite that blue, but it's a kind of a dark blue. So I say that these relate. These are ones that I think I did during the creation of the Fire and Ice journals, which had a lot of blue and orange prints that were made into a journal, and that one sold very nicely. Thank you. So these are kind of left over from that. They were not ones that were used in that journal, but they were made at that time, is what I'm saying. Or they were made shortly thereafter when I started the butterfly series. So those are going to be the covers for this, and I've already cut the book board that I'm using for that. This stuff is called book board, Davy board, 3X board, don't know what else it would be called, and I have cut them to 5.5 by 8.5, and I did make sure that they were square. And if you're doing your own journal, then I would suggest that you try to make sure that you have a square corner and go from there and make everything square on that, because it's just, I mean, you can do it with diagonals, I mean with your corners not totally square, but you'll find that it's a lot more difficult. So I did bring over a few other prints to decide whether I want to use them for the cover, but I decided against these. So these are going to be used on some other cover or in the interior of the actual butterfly print journal. The ones that I'm doing today is a butterfly print journal, but it is of the roll-off sheets. Okay, so when we do our journal, we usually do kind of a a plan of some sort, and I am notorious for doing my plans on little pieces of paper that are later lost, and it doesn't really matter because I don't mind doing them over again. But basically, we're going to have our cover, and it's 5.5 inches wide, and what I'm doing now is deciding how long this piece of paper should be, and this is Kraft-Tex paper in the natural color. You can get it in multiple colors these days. I have it in the natural white and black, and I thought about making a white cover and then using some alcohol inks to color it, but then I decided against that. I decided I didn't want to go to that trouble, and I didn't need to, and I didn't think that it would enhance it that much, so I decided against that. I guess that's not a little pencil mark. I thought that was a little pencil mark at first. Okay. So what we do is we plan out our journal, and what I did on the other ones is to make 5.5 inches, and then I left a space before I put my first signature in. And then I put in each of my signatures, and I left a space between each one. Now the space I left between each one, because you're sewing to the center of your signature. Come on. So this is where the center of the first signature will be. This is where the center of the second signature, etc. So we're going to be doing that all along the way. So this is 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then there will be a space. And then there will be the back cover. And this is definitely not drawn to scale. And what I did last time is that I know that my signatures are each about, see how much there is there when I let go of it, because that's, in the relaxed state. Now that's going to be sewn in, and if I push it really well, I have about maybe 1/8 of an inch. So I want, if you say you have 1/8 of an inch, then each of these places for sewing it in, you're going to want to have 1/8 of an inch on the side of each one. So we're going to know that there's going to be 1/4 inch total from that space there to that space there. It's going to be at least 1/4 inch, because if it's not, well, actually, yeah. No, 1/8 of an inch. So that could be 1/8 of an inch there. But I like to give it about twice that amount, because when it relaxes, it kind of goes out to there. Plus, I'm going to be folding all these things in. And if I folded everything in exactly, then I would have twice the thickness. See how that works? Because this is one thickness, this is one thickness. And if I fold them all in, then I will have twice the thickness. So that would be 1/4. Okay. So if I had 1/4 there and I have 1/4 here, that means 1/8 is on each side of this middle line where I'm going to be sewing them in. So if I have 1/8 there, then I want to leave a little bit of space in here as well. So if I have 1/8 on each side, there's 1/8 on that side and 1/8 on that side. If I leave 1/8 in between there, then that means from one signature to the next signature, I'm going to have 1/8 inch. 3/8 inch. So you have the 1/8 from that one, you have the blank 1/8, and you have the 1/8 from the next signature. So 3/8 is what I'm going to put in here in between each one, etc. So I'm going to have 5.5 plus some amount plus 3/8 times 5, because there are 6 signatures, and in between those 6 signatures will be 5 spaces. Now, I decided that this space here should be 3/8 also, and the reason for that is that I know I'm going to have 1/8 on that side from this signature here. 1/8 of it's going to be hanging over that, into that space there. And I'm going to have this board is going to be in that space, because when I put it inside my cover, then the bottom of it, the bottom right here, is going to be into that space. See, it's going to curve around like that, fold around like that, so this is going to be in my space. And I know that this width of this board here the depth of the board, I guess I should say, the thickness of the board is 1/8 inch thick. This thickness is 1/8 inch thick. So I've virtually got the same thing, is 1/8 from the board, for the board, 1/8 for the signature that's hanging over that much from where I sewed it in. And then if I put 1/8 in between, that's going to be 3/8 as well. So I end up with 3/8 here, 3/8 times 5 for the ones in between the signatures, and then 3/8 more. So I'm going to have 3/8 times 7. One for here, and then 5 more. So that makes 7. Okay, so that makes 21/8. And then if I reduce that, as it's called, in fractions, then I will come up with 2 inches and 5 more eighths. 2 5/8 inches. Okay, so I have 5.5 and 5.5, which make 11. That's easy, because you know when you divide an 11-inch piece of paper in half, you get a 5.5 inch piece. Plus I have 2 5/8, so I'm going to need 11 inches added to that will be 13 5/8 inches. So that's how long this paper is going to have to be. But one way to do it, I mean, an easy enough way to do it without having to actually measure it out, and might be easier, because when you score your paper, I don't know if you noticed it ever or not, but when you score your paper, you end up with it stretched ever so slightly. So I like to just go ahead and score mine and do it in that way. So what I'm going to do is get some of the stuff out from under here. I'm notorious about putting things under there and leaving them in the way and just, working with it, which is okay, but it's easier if you don't have all that stuff under there. Nothing under there now. So I'm going to start by scoring 5.5 inches from the edge to the 5.5 inch mark. Now, can you see that? Oh, now you can. 5.5 inches. So 4, 5, 5.5. So I'm going to score that. And I usually like to go up that once or twice. Make sure it's nicely scored. And then I'm going to score 3/8 inches. 1, 2, 3. Because I don't want my back to be rigid. It's going to be a movable back. That also helps whenever you are writing in the journal. Then your journal can lay totally flat. Okay, so I have 3/8 inches, and this is where the edge of the front will be. This is the first signature, second signature, third signature, fourth signature. So you don't even really have to measure where these are going to be. You just, if you have a cutting board, you can do it. I mean, sorry, not a cutting board, a folding board. A scoreboard, as it's called. See, scoreboard. I believe they're made by several different people. You can go back and count this again. This one was at 5.5, and then at 5 7/8, at 6 1/4, 6 and 7 8. Wait a minute, 6 5/8, 7, 7 3/8. One more of these. Then 7 3/4. Then 8 1/8, and that'll work, because if you think about 8 1/8, and then we're going to add 5 1/2 to that. So if we add 5 1/2 to this 8 1/8, then we're going to be at 13 5/8, which is where we want to be, because that is our total measurement that we had. So we did it correctly. And I'm going to just measure from here to here. And since I do not have good cutting area here, well, nope, I could do that. Let's see. So what I'm doing is I'm matching up this fold, and I know I fold them backwards. Everybody says you're supposed to fold the opposite of the way that you Well, anyway, you're supposed to fold it backwards from here, but I don't do that. I just fold it with the fold. As I made an indentation, I fold it that way that the indentation is. And I will fold each one of these and use my bone folder to, and I'm making sure that this is lined up when I'm doing it too. And make my bone folder, make sure that this fold is creased very as well as it can be. This is kind of thick paper, as you can see. I'd say that it's about, yeah, I don't know if it's a 1/16 of an inch thick. I think it's more like a 32nd of an inch thick, but it is much thicker than things like copy paper or even the paper that I use for the good prints that I do, which is 100-pound paper. I don't know if they have a weight on Kraft-Tex, but it's, I think it's Kraft-Tex or Kraft-Tex. I don't remember if it has a space in there or not. I could look that up for you. And I will put that in the comments so that you will know. But this is how I go about planning and making my book. Is I did go ahead and make those. I didn't want you to have to watch me cut those, but when I cut my book board, I do not try to go through it in one cut. It's always like, I think it takes 6 passes to go through the book board that is the 1/8 inch thick. So it takes a while to cut it. And I didn't want you to have to wait for that, but it is 5.5 by 8.5 are the sizes. And I have 4 of them for one book, because I have one on the outside front, outside back, and inside back. And I usually make an additional one that I have in the book somewhere, that I will have in the book so that you can take it out and put it behind any of the pages that you are going to write on. And that way, when you're writing on them, then you will have, like, you know, a solid flat piece, so that anything that's further into the book won't make a difference of when you're writing on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is match up these folds here. And then I'm going to make myself a mark as to where I'm going to chop this off. And I'm going to actually just use my guillotine cutter over here. I'll be right back. And cut that off real quick. And if it's not perfect, I can go back and later, I mean, if it's too short, it's bad, but if it's not perfect in the length, I can subtract off a little bit. And there we have the book that we're going to have with these pages in it, sewn into there. And we're going to have these covers. Oops, bumped the camera, sorry about that. And bumped some other stuff and knocked it off. And these will be, the covers will be like this. Front and back. And then, and this will actually, it'll be movable. It won't be a rigid back, so that you'll be able to open it to any particular place and lay it flat. Okay? If you have questions or comments, please leave them. I will show you next time. I will show you how I decide to cut out the opening here to show off the backs of the pages. And I will measure and cut that so that you can see how that works. I'll also glue up the covers so that the covers will be ready to put on the book. And I'll also have to decide on where I'm going to have the holes punched to sew the signatures into the cover. So I'll get all that ready to do for the next video. So if you want to keep stay tuned and you can watch me build this book. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, comment, share, thumbs up if you like it, and good night for now. Bye.